Didn't like Tucker becoming the mayor at the end of the show? Gone. He's fired. Missed the more linear storytelling feel? Get ready for a world of development. Remember when Vlad was frustratingly flanderized? Boom, now he's a real character again. What about the retcon saying ghosts are actually monsters from another dimension? Don't worry, A Glitch in Time's got that covered too. Hey everyone, Kuro the Artist here. That's right folks, 16 years after the conclusion of Danny Phantom. After countless campaigns, protests, hashtags, creator endorsement, and crossovers upon crossovers upon crossovers upon crossovers. Not that one. We finally have a legitimate release of genuine new Danny Phantom content. A story so nice, I bought it twice. In fact, I'll be giving one of these away for free, so if you want to know how to enter, just keep watching. Danny Phantom: A Glitch in Time is written as a continuation of the original show, and it does a pretty solid job at picking up right where the series left off. Danny's secret identity is now public, ghost hunting becomes more commonplace, and Vlad mysteriously returns, sparking Danny's internalized rage from years of traumatic conflict. Now, why does that sound so familiar? So I'm just gonna say it, this novel is great. Like, surprisingly really great. I mean, I knew I would enjoy it and find it entertaining, but this story was very solid, and it kept me completely engaged cover to cover. It also stuck out to me that seemingly every major complaint that folks had about the series ending was addressed in this story. The story takes its time to either flesh out or course correct a lot of the biggest issues the series had, especially the infamous third season's tonal shift. But you just can't celebrate Danny Phantom's return alone, so Kiki's jumping in to help shine more light on this fantastic fantasy of fun. There's a handful of DP videos already on their channel, which I'll link below, so Kiki's got just the right street cred to stroll through Amity Park one more time for the release of this graphic novel. We're really excited to get into this, so without any more time to waste, get ready to officially go ghost again. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Are you tired of getting the same deals online that you get in the store just for a little bit of extra convenience? Well, tired no more when you try this game-changing app called Temu. With Temu, you can shop for high-quality items across multiple categories for incredibly affordable prices. From fashion and accessories to home and decor, Temu's got you covered. One of the things I love most about Temu is their site-wide sale where you can save up to 90% off on your favorite items. And if you ask me personally, that is an incredible deal that you don't want to miss out on. Plus, Temu has free shipping on all items, and you can enjoy hassle-free returns for up to 90 days. And if you're a new user, you can get a fantastic 50% off by downloading Temu from our link in the description below. Or you can use our unique code DKF2962 on the Temu app. Whether you're looking for a trendy outfit for a night out, the latest gadgets, or even affordable home decor, Temu has got you covered. And with their free shipping and free returns, it's a win-win situation. Last but not least, if you're a new user to Temu, you can use our link in the description below to get the Switch OLED for $299. That's a hell of a deal. Or if you're a new Temu app user, you can use our code DKF2962 to get the Switch OLED for $274. That's an even better deal. So what are you waiting for? Start saving money and upgrade your shopping experience with Temu today.
Although it lacked the involvement from series creator Butch Hartman, the novel was written and illustrated by one person, Gabriella Epstein, which makes the artwork and story complement each other efficiently. It's a lot easier to flesh out a narrative when you're able to produce both the visuals and storytelling with your own flavor, and Gabriella has proven to have a flawless understanding on what made Danny Phantom so great in the first place. Despite the responsibility it has to live up to the 16 years of anticipation for an epic continuation of the main series, it still takes time to have fun and include humor, small character moments, and acknowledge all areas of Danny Phantom's history.
Hey, I'm Offbeat Kiki. It's almost impossible to describe the joy I felt holding this book in my hands Tuesday morning. The drive back from the bookstore felt like an eternity. I'd been looking forward to this book for over a year, but let's be real, I've been waiting for the next chapter in Danny's story since 2007. My mighty need for more Fenton, Manson, and Foley is old enough to get a driver's license in all 50 states. Leading up to the release, I'd tried to manage my expectations. How much and how well can one person encapsulate a series worked on by an entire team? Personally, I expected a fun look into what more of the show could have been. A nice, professionally published piece of fanfiction that would soothe the tired souls of me and all my friends from the early years of the fandom. And I looked forward to that. But instead, reading page after page, I found the beginning of Season 4 in my hands. The happiest feeling in my heart and the biggest smile on my face. A Glitch in Time is an ode to the things that made Danny Phantom unique. Each page is infused with gorgeous art and a very cool story, yes, but what truly stunned me was Gabriella Epstein's deep understanding of the characters, the pacing of its story beats, and the show's tendency for inexplicable convenience. It was like reading a new episode after all this time, my brain filling in the blanks of the characters' voices, and the silly little musical stabs and sound effects that peppered the soundtrack of the series. And if you haven't read it yet, I think you're gonna love it.
This novel has pretty much everything you'd want out of a continuation of Danny Phantom. I highly appreciate the lack of spoilers to its release. There's something that happens with Dark Danny right at the start of the book that you absolutely would not have seen coming, and it shocked me with so much giddy excitement. I'm glad they kept it a secret. Dark Danny is undoubtedly the fan favorite villain of the show, who rivals and in some areas surpasses Vlad both narratively and with audience appeal. I'm sure everyone was begging for his eventual return that was teased. But on the contrary, I always felt that Dark Danny should never be brought back. It's a huge risk, and the appeal of his character is very rooted in his own story. I feared if he were ever to return, he'd become just another bad guy. I liked that he rolled up with one banger of an hour-long special and then never showed up again to ruin it. But that all changed the second I saw him, and I was instantly hyped. Every panel makes him look like a classy badass. He's everything the fans wanted him to be, and he changed my mind that Dark Danny returning would never work. Now, the story is very Danny Phantom. The show has always had its own set of rules, but never shied away from breaking them to service the story, for better or for worse. But that's part of the charm of the show, and that's reflected right here in the novel. I mean, Dark Danny gets released simply because Vlad accidentally knocks over the Fenton thermos containing him. That's pretty on brand for the show. So while there's definitely a dash of randomness that threads together some of the story beats, especially the ending, I wouldn't call that a flaw. It's nice to relax a bit and not have to worry so much about magic systems and prognostication, and just have a fun ride with our favorite ghost getters. At its core, Danny Phantom is meant to be fast-paced and whimsical, and that's exactly what you get with A Glitch in Time. But don't get me wrong, this story is still jam-packed with amazing concepts. Vlad and Danny reluctantly team up on a quest to discover the true source of ecto-energy, and I really liked both the journey and what it leads them to discover. It peels back the blanket of humor these zany villains are tucked into, and evolves their stories to have a deeper, more vulnerable meaning. The potential of Danny Phantom seemed to outweigh the actual show itself, and is one of the biggest reasons why the show is still loved today. I'm pretty sure Danny Phantom is mostly kept active online by alternative universe fan art and fics because we always wish the series took itself just a bit more seriously. And as the novel does this, and makes all the characters reflect on the world they live in a way the show's never touched on, it makes everything that came before it feel refreshingly special, and sets up the resolution to this story in a way that wouldn't land as well without this new emotional layer that Gabriella adds to Danny's lore. To make these lengthy points shorter, A Glitch in Time is able to balance paying tribute to the chaotically comedic world of Danny Phantom, while also intertwining a new way to look at and interpret the characters. I love that the intro breaks down the story so far in a simplified but effective montage, which looks gorgeous by the way. But after that, there's a lot of straightforward dialogue, references, and developments from the show that can make you feel sorta lost if this is your entry point to the series. Granted, it does make efforts to reintroduce or explain elements you may need a refresher on. On the flip side, as a Danny Phantom fan, all of this stuff is fantastic. I literally could not stop myself from having the biggest stupid grin on my face with some of the stuff that happened here. Every piece of Fenton tech, every returning character, every reference to a previous episode, it really makes you feel like maintaining your interest in the show after all this time was worth it. Bravo, A Glitch in Time. Bravo.
I adore so many of the villains in Danny Phantom, but I think Clockwork is one of the objectively coolest of them all. His ability to command time itself made his powers near limitless, and the only reason he wasn't incredibly threatening was because his character's core traits were neutrality and objectivity. Take those out of the equation, and Clockwork instantly becomes the most terrifying entity in the franchise, past even Vortex and Dark Danny, who I always saw as completely lacking in empathy for life forms of any variety. The way that Clockwork and Dark Danny are brought back and given lead roles in this graphic novel raises the stakes to an extreme never before seen in Danny's story. Back in the later 2000s, around the time of the show's cancellation, I remember reading the Butch Hartman forums and Danny Phantom fan websites often, trying to find out any and all information I could about the series and its conclusion, which I was distraught over. There was an interview conducted via chat or email with one of the writers, perhaps it was Steve Marmol, about where they wanted to take the show had they gotten a season 4. I remember reading that they wanted to bring back Dark Danny and take the series in a darker, more grown-up direction. I was so impressed at how this graphic novel managed exactly that without being divorced from the identity of the series. Danny Phantom was always a bit silly, with random deus ex machina moments and solutions shoehorned into otherwise coherent storylines. And I think that might be the hardest thing to recreate, that the author executed perfectly, alongside the puns, tendencies for showing instead of telling when it came to relationships, and hinting at the emotions bubbling underneath the surface for each character. The book resumes where Phantom Planet left off. The world knows Danny's identity. He and Sam are in a relationship, and Tucker is the mayor. I thought those first two things were cool, but Tucker being the mayor never made sense to me. I always felt like they didn't know what to do with him in the finale and just put him there. The graphic novel handles this hilariously by having Tucker lose his spot in office after a mere 48 hours, bringing this very strange choice for his character completely into context, and effectively fixing my least favorite thing about the show's finale. And the graphic novel handles each character with that same level of respect. In Phantom Planet, Danny struggles with the loss of his sense of identity and purpose when Master's blasters take over ghost hunting responsibilities in Amity Park. Grasping for control, he gets rid of his powers. I always thought that this part of the finale was really interesting and spoke to an underlying arc for his character, but was cut short by the Disasteroid plotline. Danny's arc in A Glitch in Time is all about rediscovering and declaring his purpose, and letting that drive him fearlessly toward his future. He also now has Sam by his side, as they famously got together in the finale in one of the most iconic scenes from cartoons of our childhood. And while Sam's main drive in this book is to support Danny in his journey, she's still the same expressive, badass, caring, environmentalist goth girl we came to love in the series. And don't forget the ability to spin any type of athletic ball on her finger, which was included here. I've always loved that shot of Sam spinning the basketball on her finger. I love the moment when she asked Vlad how many countries he could feed with the funds used to build his estate, and the scene where she bonds with the horse in an alternate reality. She's always been appreciative of nature and well-intentioned toward humanity and the environment, and I was really glad the author grasped that, because Sam is often maligned in modern fandom. Ever the opposite of Sam, Tucker is still that goofy, attention whore techno geek, but this time without the hefty side of perviness that made his character age so poorly in the original. It's simply left at a reference to dreaming of models in the episode Frightmare, and instead he's now the character with modernized language, like calling Danny the GOAT, greatest of all time, and a sizable following on a live streaming platform. Since Tucker was always super into technology, it makes complete sense for him to be super into his smartphone these days, and I am really appreciative of this adjustment for him. Danny's parents remain goofy and passionate about ghost hunting and each other, and Jazz retains her love for psychology, boundless support for her brother, and incessant experiences of being left out of Ghost Zone adventures. But now, she's a ghost hunter in her own right, able to hold down the fort in Amity Park alongside her parents. Old family friend Vlad Plasmius evolved to become the most sociopathic and destructive villain in Nickelodeon history by the time the series ended. With his actions being so deplorable, Jack decided to leave him in space to suffer in the void. To be honest, a part of me always thought that Vlad's story should have ended there, as retribution would be near impossible. But if he has to come back, the way this book handled it was perfect. Vlad approaches Danny for help once again, calling back to episodes like Masters of All Time and Torrent of Terror. His arc in this book exposes the trauma, fear, and loss that informed his actions in the show, and offers him a path to amends, though he will likely never redeem himself in the eyes of the public. As someone who has spent way too much time theorizing and analyzing the characterization of the cast of Danny Phantom, Phantom, reading A Glitch in Time was a fantastically rewarding experience, not only to see each of these characters grow in the right direction, but to feel seen in my deeper read and understanding of Danny and the people around him. I've always feared what season 4 of this show could look like if there were a continuation, but if this author continues at the helm, I'm thrilled to see what happens next. One of the most important characters in Danny Phantom is Valerie Gray. Early in the series, an accident at her father's workplace caused by Danny himself leads Valerie down the path of becoming a ghost hunter, often referred to as the Red Huntress in the fandom. As Valerie seeks revenge on Danny Phantom for her family's financial ruin, she simultaneously becomes entangled with Danny Fenton, first as a friend and then as a romantic interest. Danny falling for Valerie as she unknowingly hunted him made their relationship the most interesting and dynamic element of the series. But after they went their separate ways and Danny started to realize his feelings for Sam, Valerie took a back seat in the story, and their connection was largely ignored as the series came to a close. So, I was very excited to see what would happen with Valerie in this book. I've always believed that her character was done wrong in the show, and have wanted to see her and Danny get closure on their complicated relationship after she found out that he was the one she was hunting all this time. But her role in this novel and her characterization are much different than what I was expecting. Valerie is still ghost hunting, and helps Jazz to keep ghosts at bay when the trio is off on Ghost Zone adventures. But the way she is handled in the second half of the book left me feeling simultaneously confused and excited for more. I don't want to spoil anything, so all I'll say for now is that if we get another book, Valerie might finally get that lead role, and that confrontation with Danny that I've been waiting for.
The backgrounds look straight out of the show. They're practically indistinguishable. As for the characters, they look very Danny Phantom inspired, but they're not exactly like the cartoon, and I feel like that's for the best. Danny Phantom's art is great and certainly shines in animation, but it's still imagery like promo posters and official art wasn't able to show that off, where Gabriella's art is very expressive and exactly what the story needed. Not to mention the excellent use of panel placement, which again is attributed to Gabriella being both the author and illustrator of the story. I can practically hear Guy Moon scoring this as I read it. These pages are so captivating to look at, and joined by Killian's excellent use of color, they make something as simple as smoke or rocks look vibrant and appealing. I also really like that the characters constantly change outfits when shifting through time. They didn't have to do this, and it's never explained why it happens, but I don't care. I love it, and there's so many outfits. Vlad and Danny sometimes even get unique outfits for both their human and ghost form, and a lot of the times it's only for a handful of panels. That's dedication. I do wish we saw Clockwork change his age around more like he did in the show, but I see why they didn't do that. Also, the author confirmed that all of the ancient text shown in the novel has real translations, so after your first read through, there's reasons to go back with your ghostly decoder and find the hidden secrets to ecto energy firsthand. But there's a handful of times where I had to stop reading just to admire the art. It's very incredible what they're able to pull off with relatively simple shapes and colors. It's very tempting to cake on tons of detail and shading to emphasize construction and emotion, and that absolutely works for many art styles. But this novel effectively gets by without it, and that makes me appreciate Gabriella and Killian's design techniques even more. Now for the nitpickers, there's the biggest question: is this comic canon? Pretty much, yeah. It's quite the challenge when new creatives have to tackle an existing IP with seasoned characteristics and a passionate fanbase, but I couldn't really find any holes in the story. It even establishes that the main series takes place over multiple years, something fans have heavily speculated but was never highlighted in the show. Danny Phantom may have started his journey at 14, but there's no way he's still 14 by the end of the show. The only issue I really had was with how Vlad survives the disasteroid. There's this one panel that shows him watching Danny and co save the Earth when the disasteroid passes through. But in Phantom Planet, we clearly see him crushed by the big old green rock. And due to its constant momentum and the fact that it already had to pass through the Earth, there's no way he could be observing it from this far and then simply fly back to Earth. There's also Fright Night apparently having allegiance to the Ghost King again, but hey, these are all small nitpicks and I honestly don't care. As far as I'm concerned, A Glitch in Time can easily serve as an official continuation of the show.
who grew up with the show as it was airing and followed the fandom through the cancellation, protests, petitions, prolific production of fanfiction and art over the last 16 years since Phantom Planet aired, A Glitch in Time is an incredibly satisfying trip back to Amity Park with those old friends I loved so dearly. I've always believed the most special thing about Danny Phantom is the world building, which allows the fandom to blossom endlessly. The show premiered 19 years ago, but remains the 6th most popular category for cartoons on fanfiction.net. The series never reached its full potential due to being cut short and losing some of its best writing staff before season 3. But the bones of a fantastic serialization are there, and it allowed fans of the show to dive deep into its world and create endless stories and artwork, making it one of the most passionate animation fandoms to ever exist. And I think Gabriella Epstein is very obviously among the ranks of us fans. They did a fantastic job writing and illustrating this book. She clearly understands the characters, the story, and the ethos of the show very deeply. I'd say better than some of the writers who were working on season 3 did. I'd love to see them get the chance to make another book to follow this one, exploring those loose ends revolving around Valerie, Vlad, and Danny's identity. More than anything, I'm just so grateful for this graphic novel, and my inner child is too.
If you couldn't tell by the note to her parents at the beginning about collecting all of the Burger King toys, Gabriella was a fan of the series growing up, so I can imagine the novel is just as important to her as it is to myself, Kiki, and all of the hungry fans out there. It's incredible to know that her passion for these spectral stories paved the way to her eventual involvement, and now has an officially licensed contribution to Danny Phantom's legacy. So Gabriella, if you're watching, thank you so much for helping keep Danny Phantom alive. And if this novel's new wave of support garners a continuation, I am confident that it is in the right hands. Oh, and about the graphic novel giveaway, step 1, follow us on Twitter at @It'sTheInkTank. Step 2, tweet out your favorite thing about Danny Phantom. Could be your favorite character, episode, concept, doesn't matter. Just tell us why you like the show. And step 3, make sure to tag us somewhere in the tweet so we can see it. The winner will be announced on the aforementioned Twitter account after a few days. We'll need to contact you via DMs if you win, so make sure those are turned on as well. And don't worry, we'll cover the shipping costs.
Thanks so much to Kuro and the Ink Tank for having me on to chat about my lifelong favorite cartoon. If you want to hear more from me, I just finished a video on season 3 of the show, and I have a retrospective on the entire series, as well as breakdowns of specific episodes over on my channel. Peace out.
You don't need the info map to find a link to that video below, so check it out when you get a chance. You may find that I've opened a portal to that channel to give a few words of Danny Phantom's 3rd season of my own. Until then, you can stay up to date with everything that we do on our social medias, and check out my own comic continuation of Danny Phantom that crosses over with the likes of Ben 10, Invader Zim, and a few others. A motion comic adaptation with a full cast, visual effects, and an original score is coming out later this year, and I'd be thrilled if y'all checked it out. But for now, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And as always, keep it fizzy. So I actually tried to buy some contacts for this costume, and when they came in, it turns out they're actually little sticker beads and such. I'll probably find something fun to stick these onto, but yeah, no green eyes for me, I guess. But I got the snow white hair.